Well, good afternoon, everybody. Today is Sunday, June 20th, and this is Life Matters. Let's talk about it. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Life Matters with Michelle. I am your host, Michele Irby Johnson, and I am so excited to have you join us on today. We have a very special guest with me today, but before we jump into that, I want to remind you that this is a platform where we talk about what matters to you, particularly in the African American community. So go ahead and post your questions, and I can field them to our very beautiful guests, Douglas and Renee Dantzler. Say hello to the people.
Hello, everyone.
How y'all doing?
Good. It is so good to have you all with me here on the show. I'm going to introduce you formally to our audience, and so they'll know exactly who we have gracing us on today. Douglas and Renee were born and raised in New York City, and they met in 1984 at high school and began their journey as classmates, then on to high school sweethearts. I graduated in 1984, telling my age. They started dating in 1985, and they eloped in 1987, 1 month after graduating high school. They have 3 sons and 1 granddaughter. Douglas is a United States Navy veteran. Thank you for your service, sir. He currently attends the University of Maryland Global Campus in pursuit of his bachelor's degree in psychology. Renee currently attends Lancaster Bible College in pursuit of her bachelor's degree in communications. She is a sought-after certified personal training coach, transformation artist, strength strategist. They are the authors of His Story, Her Story, God's Glory, and the host of a podcast called Doug and Renee Married Life. I tell you, we are in for some good stuff. Douglas and Renee mentor and counsel married couples, as well as individuals who desire to be married. They help couples to survive the trials and tribulations of marriage. They believe that nothing is impossible to overcome if you put in the work, and most of all, trust God. Their motto is, and it should be all of ours, amen, divorce is not an option. Yes. Welcome once again to my amazing guests, Douglas and Renee.
For having us.
Thank you.
When you were reading that, I was like, wow.
You like, who's
that?
Yeah, I'm like, who's that?
It's like, Harper, who them people? Harper, who them people? Amen. Well, I am so excited to have you all on the show. You know, my husband, he shows me all of the work that he does. He'll say, babe, what do you think? What do you think? And I remember when he was working on you all's book cover, and I was like, I like that one. And but we'll get to that later. But yeah, I met you all, you know, indirectly through his graphic services. But I want to jump right in. And we all know that marriage is not something that is on the forefront of everybody's mind. Of course, we can look around and we can see people who think it's okay to shack up. I said it out loud in the mic. This is my show. They like to shack up. They like to play house. They like to jump from bed to bed. They think that marriage is a shackle rather than a blessing. And, you know, as pastors, you know, I hear it from all different directions. I myself have been married more than once, even to this here one that I'm married to now. I'll give our testimony at another time, but people don't honor marriage the way it was intended. as the institution that God established it to be. And we're going to take that from a number of perspectives, and you're going to help us as married folk to gain a better insight and perspective on marriage. And so tell us, first of all, how long you all have been married.
We have been married in exactly 1 month, drum roll, 34 years.
You all look 34.
July 20th, 34 years.
You look 34. How do you get married?
I tell people all the time, it was an arranged marriage. I'm only 40. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. It was arranged from 5 years and up.
I'm gonna hang on to that. Yeah, yes, I'm gonna hang on to that.
Yeah, she told me if you don't marry me, she was going to do bodily harm to me. So it was arranged.
Oh, okay. So that's where that certified, is that where that certified trainer comes in?
I guess so. But I'm not a violent person.
Oh,
that's my story.
That's another story. That's another episode. We'll just.
Well, I was going to say, as my husband says, you know, they call me Michele, but you don't want to meet Master Sergeant and you don't want to meet Andrea because she's a different spirit. And so it really depends on what's happening. Y'all pray for me, okay?
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So statistically, marriage works, or marriages last 50% or less in time. Am I right in my statistical data?
Yes.
So give us a little insight in terms of your research, in terms of your studying. What do you think? We'll talk from a broad perspective, and then we're going to bring it down to the African American community.
Yeah.
What do you think is the culprit, if you will, to marriages not lasting?
You want to take that?
I'll start, and you can.
Yeah,
I think the first thing that popped in my mind is commitment. People just don't want to commit to anything, and nobody wants to work hard. I tell people all the time, marriage is work, and then I add hard in front of it. Marriage is hard work, and people want things to come easy, and they're selfish.
Yes.
And they want things their way. And marriage is a selfless act. It is a selfless ministry. And a lot of people don't want to do ministry. They're in it for themselves. It's what can I get out of it?
And not only is marriage hard work, it's working on you all the time. So if you don't want to work on you 24/7, my wife always says this, don't get married. If you're selfish, don't get married, because you're constantly working on you. You know, I have my wedding band on. I could take my wedding band off, but I'm still married. You know, I could take it off and try to be single, or act like I'm single, but I'm still married. And so marriage is constantly working on you all the time. And sometimes we don't want to work on ourselves. We just want to do what we want to do, and, you know, how we want to do it, when we want to do it. But because I'm committed to Renee, and she's my first accountability partner, I have to constantly work on me and try to make me better, thereby making me a better husband, better father.
Yes.
And what just dropped in my spirit was marriage will reveal who you really are.
Yes.
Yes. I was thinking that when you were saying that. I say this all the time. Marriage will shine the light on you.
Yeah.
On you.
Yes.
That whole thing about, well, he did, wait a minute. What was your participation in it? Because oftentimes the other person is reactionary to what you've done or have not done or what have you. And who we are shows up when we are rubbed the wrong way, or we don't get our way, or something like that. So marriage will show you who you really are.
That is so true.
And I think, going back to your question, which is why people don't stay married, because they don't want to deal with themselves, which is why they go somewhere else. And they're like, why am I going through this again? Because you're still there. The same you was there. You are now here.
No matter where you go.
There you are.
There you are.
I was going to say, there was a quote that when I did my first master's, they said, wherever you go, there ye be. And it's the same thing. You can change partners. You can change locations. It's and oftentimes it's the same person in a different name and a different body. You are the same person picking the same people based off your perception of what relationship is.
Exactly.
God had to tutor me through that for about 10, 12 years. Yes, he did. We asked her, like, well, I don't know why this is not working. Because his name is John, but he looks like Steve, and it looks like it's the same person. But guess who is the constant in all of these failed relationships?
Yep.
You.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
That is so true.
You can never get away from you.
Hey, chase that tail. You're not going to catch it. Oh, my goodness. And someone put in the comments, marriage is ministry, and you cannot carry baggage from the old marriage into a new marriage. Let's hit on that for a minute. It wasn't a question, but it was certainly a comment that I think a lot of us need to. I think we need to park there. Not even so much an old marriage into a new marriage, but an old relationship into a new marriage. Because some people will bring their experience from their 20s into their marriage in their 30s, and they've not given themselves an opportunity to purge. And so you still remember what John did, how John kissed, how John this, how John that, and your expectations are aligned with John, and you married to Steve. Help us here.
And so when we teach the premarital class, we almost say exactly what you said, word for word, that you have to allow yourself time to get over previous relationships. Because if you look at so-called celebrities right now, they'll jump from one person to the next person to the next person, and it's like, how? And they have children, and they bring the children in all this, and we know from experience that when you jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, you're bringing all of that in with you. And so you're expecting Johnny to treat you a certain way, but you're still dealing with issues from Larry, or vice versa. And it becomes a problem. It becomes like cancer, because you got to get to the root of it and deal with it, and then, purge yourself, allow yourself time to heal from previous relationships.
Yeah, I was thinking of the analogy of the baggage. When you go on a trip, you unload that baggage, you wash your laundry, you clean it. You don't leave it in there and then on your next trip put more baggage in there. And then you're that person sitting on the bed trying to smush down all that baggage, and you're dragging all of this in from one relationship to the other. You have to unpackage that baggage. Yep. You have to let it out, which is why a lot of people don't want to deal with them, and they don't know that they're carrying all of this excess weight into a relationship. Relationship is hard enough without carrying additional baggage from a previous relationship. So people have to learn to deal with it, heal, learn, and grow before they move on to the next relationship. They're going into the next relationship with a Band-Aid over a cut, and they haven't allowed the wound to heal.
That's exactly the word I was looking for, heal. Because you have to heal from previous relationships. Because then if your current spouse will say something and you just snap, and you're not really snapping at your current spouse, you snapping at the person before your current spouse, and because you didn't take your time to heal.
Yes, absolutely. Living in the shadows of the residue. That's what I tell when I counsel people, because my second master's is in counseling, but when I counsel women and when I do premarital counseling, I said, you're walking around with the residue expecting somebody else to essentially overlook what you're bringing in that you don't want to deal with. I said, so you can't bring in, like, I was an abused wife 24, 25 years ago. And so I can't bring in the fact that, raised voices and different things that were triggers for me years ago. I can't bring that into my current relationship. I can't bring that into my marriage. And my husband and I, we've talked about it. I said, I still have a sensitivity to voice tone and inflection, but not like I did in the 90s when somebody just said something the wrong way. I was like, what is going on? But I had to work that, I had to work on that, and God had to work that out of me. Sometimes you have to massage the pain points so that you can get all the pus out.
Yeah.
You can't put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. It's not going to help. It's
exactly.
There's not enough, to absorb.
So, and it's not fair to the new person.
Absolutely.
When you come into the relationship and you start blaming them or looking at them as the other person or the previous relationship, it's not fair.
Exactly. There's a comment here that says your spouse should not have to clean up your mess from from the past.
They shouldn't, but I have a point to that. They shouldn't, but guess what? When they get married, they marry all of that.
All of it.
So once you say I do, guess what? You said I do to what you see and the stuff you don't see.
Yep.
That baggage, once you get in that marriage and you start unpackaging who you really are, they said I do to all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So although it's unfair to them and they shouldn't have to, guess what? That's what they signed up for.
And that comes back to communication. If you communicate prior to getting married and you talk about things and you discuss things and you're open and honest about this is what I went through, this is what I'm experiencing, this is what I'm feeling, because we believe marriage is covenant. And so when you go in, you're going in for the long haul, and whatever issues or concerns or enemies Renee has, I take that on once we become married. And it's because we ain't going in covenant. And so if you have open and honest communication with your current spouse or your future spouse, then give them the opportunity to say, I can't take on this right now. I'm not ready to take on all of this. And that'll give you time to come back to working on yourself.
Yes.
I got to heal. Let me heal before I introduce someone else into my life.
Absolutely.
You just said something very key. And this is when my husband and I, we do the C's of marriage. You said marriage is covenant. And one of the things we often say is marriage is covenant, not contract. Can you speak a little bit on that? Because a lot of people say, well, we why do we need to get married? We've been in this thing, we've been living together for 10 years. I said, but this is not a contractual thing that, at end of 10 years, 11 years, you can walk away and say, well, I'm done with this. Covenant is much deeper. Can you walk us through that?
Yes. Well, I was going to piggyback off
okay.
You since you
so covenant, and I don't want to get too biblical, but
yes, you can.
Okay.
Because that's what it's based off of. It's a biblical institution.
It is a biblical institution. So when we go in covenant with our spouse, and do I want to go into shedding of blood and all of that? Okay, I'll leave that out. But when we go in covenant, and I like to use the example of the children of Israel when they will go circumcised, and they were going to fight. I forgot who it was off the top of my head, but it's in the Bible. It's in the Old Testament. They were going to fight some ites, Hittites, Jebusites, somebody. Whoever it was. And they tricked them. They came to them and they looked very poor. They looked very destitute, and they tricked them. And the children of Israel, God told them to wipe everybody out. He said, this land I'm giving you, but you got to kill everybody. But because one of the Hittites, Jebusites, whoever, they tricked them, and they tricked the children of Israel into going into covenant with them. So even though God told them to do one thing, they were tricked into this, and they went into covenant with the people that God told them to kill. So what does this have to do with marriage? I'm glad you asked.
Come on.
Even though someone may trick you, or even though you may get tricked, it's not necessarily how you go in, because our elder has a saying, what if I find out I married the wrong person? He says, well, then you become the right person. You become the right one, because it's a covenant. And since divorce is not an option, and we believe in the power of words, we believe in the power of God and the Holy Spirit, that there's a new wife in your current wife. There's a new wife, there's a new husband in your current husband. So even though we got married at a young age, we wasn't saved, didn't know the Lord, anything like that. But because we believed, I would say we didn't start off the right way, but look at us 34 years later.
Amen.
Because we decided to go because we're in covenant, and divorce is not an option.
Yes. And I'll add that it's not a contract, because the covenant is with God. It's higher than ourselves. Yeah. So when I don't necessarily want to be married to Doug, or Doug doesn't want to be married to me because we rubbed each other the wrong way, our relationship with God is what keeps this relationship right. We are in covenant with God. We made a commitment to God, the covenant that says, God, I'm going to love my husband till death do me part. I'm going to do all of the things that marriage is supposed to be as a wife and as a husband. And that is what helps us to outlive, a contract. Because we could go buy a car and not pay the note and rip up the contract. We can go and buy a house and rip up a contract.
And they'll take it right from you too.
But that doesn't work with covenant.
Mm-mm.
I could go downstairs and rip up our marriage certificate. It doesn't change in the sight of God that this is my husband and I'm his wife.
I'm not going anywhere. But can I say something? And right now, you have people who we believe you have to be more committed to the institution of marriage than you are the person you're actually married to.
Yeah. That's good stuff. Say that again.
You have to be more committed to the institution of marriage than the person who you're married to, because there will be a time where you don't want to be married to that person. It's coming. Yes. You just live long enough in the same house. Hey, you ain't got to. Okay.
No, I was thinking about that song. Because what's love got to do with it? Because sometimes, we don't feel so lovely. Mm-hmm. We don't act so lovely. What's that got to do with it?
Yeah.
What does it have to do
with God?
Yeah. I got to give a shout out to my co-pastor. That was her saying.
Amen. And I had to grow to that. So again, bringing my testimony to the forefront. Apostle Sean and I, we were married on July 7th, 2007. Mm-hmm. And we were pastoring a church. We were living out of state. We were doing all of this. And then we got in the way. And so we, separated and we divorced. And for 10 years, I was searching. I was like, God, I want this. I want that. This is what I need. He's like, I had to go through the healing process and all of the bitterness and everything I was contending with. And then I kept praying for, a particular type of man. Mm-hmm. And everything I was praying for was who Sean was. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I wasn't praying for him because, he was otherwise occupied. I'll say that. But I was, because who he was to me was everything I needed and everything I wanted. We were just in the way in terms of ministry and couldn't see the forest for the trees. If you will. Yeah. We put ministry over marriage, all of those different things. It didn't mean I didn't love him. It just wasn't working because we weren't in the right heart space, if you will. Didn't understand covenant, didn't understand, a lot of different things. Fast forward to 2020. Well, we got remarried on February 22nd, which was the actual date we were divorced. I didn't realize it until I went to get the marriage certificate. I said, do you realize that we're getting remarried on the same day that our divorce was finalized in 2010, 10 years ago?
Wow.
And so for us, it just was God closed the loop as if nothing ever happened. Mm-hmm. And so we have a greater appreciation for marriage now, not just because we've matured, but we understand covenant and commitment. Yeah. Right now, our mantra is, divorce is not an option. Our the pastor that married us, he said, #work it out. Whatever happens, you got to learn how to work it out. And I have a greater appreciation for where we are now than I did then, because in those 10 years, I had to work on this one. All of this right here had to be worked. This right here had to be worked on. Okay.
I hear you.
And so I love the fact that, when we talk about covenant, I get it now. Mm-hmm. I honestly get it. And I don't care if, his feet are cold or toenails are scratching the shoes or, whatever the case may be, you're going to get me. I'm not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, okay, how mad you make me? I'll put you in the closet, but you don't get to leave. This is not how it works. And so one of the questions from our audience says, how do you resolve conflict and have healthy arguments? I say healthy disagreements because I don't believe in arguing, and neither does he. So how do you walk us through that? Because a lot of people don't fight fair.
That's true.
When they argue, when they disagree, they don't fight fair, and they pull stuff from 5 years ago, 2 months ago, and it's not fair. So how do you do that?
I'm going to say the first thing when you said fight fair is ground rules.
Yeah.
y'all need to establish some ground rules before you have like what I like to call a passionate discussion.
Yeah.
Heated fellowship, some people call
yes,
it.
right. Some intense moments of fellowship. Yes. Set some ground rules. We're not going to hit below the belt. We know the things that really rub our spouse the wrong way. Make it a point of, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to say that. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to talk about any of your family members. Douglas and I have established a rule that we do not bring up stuff that happened a week ago.
Yeah.
We try to deal with it in the moment. Yep. Because what ends up happening is we have this snowball effect. Now we got 5 and 10 and 20 things we want to talk about at one time. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to help the wives out. Men have a certain amount of time, attention span. Right. And so you want to hit the high points. Don't go around the block, up the street, around the corner to the store to make your point. And don't bring up 10 different things.
Don't do it.
Because they are only going to hear the first few moments and then everything else is lost in translation. Yeah. And so I think it's important to have ground rules. I think it's important to establish what are the things we are not going to do in a conversation. Deal with things ahead of time. We are very big. We talk about it all the time on our podcast. Communication is the foundation. That's key. Mm-hmm. After, having a relationship with the Lord and putting God first, you got to communicate. Our God is a communicating God. He spoke everything into existence. We have to use our words wisely and speak to our spouse and understand their love language so that we can speak in a way that they're receptive to what we are trying to communicate. And I can go on, but I could tell you you sitting over there ready. Jump in like Double Dutch.
No, and I want everything you said, I agree with. And I just want to add on, you have to know your spouse. Renee's a morning person. I'm a night person. So in the morning, do not hit me in the morning with a whole bunch of da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
We got to talk.
Yeah, we got to talk. Do not, no, that's not going to work. Just like it won't work for Renee in the evening, but we need to talk. We need to come to a middle ground. In the middle of the day, we have a conversation. Again, a conversation. We weren't always at this point where we are right now. So these are things we've learned over time. And there are certain conversations we don't have in certain rooms of our house.
Not in the bedroom.
Not in the bedroom. Yep. No. We are not having certain conversations in our bedroom. Yes. So we can go outside. We've had conversations in the car. We've had them in the garage, the parking lot, wherever. But certain conversations, certain subjects, we are not bringing up in our bedroom. And these
absolutely.
are all.
I said absolutely.
Yeah. And so these are little things you can do in advance because you're going to have conflict. But if you just acknowledge the fact, and I've learned over time that my tone, I have a very sharp tone. I've been told that. And so,
I'm going to look straight ahead. You know how they say, don't look at your spouse. I'm just going to look straight ahead.
Amen. Don't turn to the left or the right.
I am learning, and I'm still learning. And I'm trying my hardest to smile when I talk to my wife because I do not want my tone to come across. But there are certain times I'm just talking. I'm just being me. And she's like, your tone. I'm like, this.
He's very intense.
I'm like, this is just
passionate.
Yes.
Passionate.
Yes.
But these are little things people can do because you're going to have conflict. It's inevitable. And just don't think it's strange. All marriages go through it.
Absolutely. And one thing I like to say is that you can't think that because you disagree that the marriage is automatically on the rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Because sometimes if, you're looking for, you don't want your marriage to fail. You don't want, things to be said of you from your spouse or whatever. And so you find yourself unknowingly walking around on eggshells. And as soon as something happens, and it's not even anything detrimental, you just don't agree. All of a sudden, it becomes our marriage is in trouble, or we need prayer, or the devil is in it. Yeah. It's like, where did the devil come from? I mean,
right.
And it's all about perception. And so for me, being a counselor, the first thing I think about is like, okay, that's coming from a place And so let's talk about that. Why did you respond that way, or why did you react that way? Because, reacting and responding are two different things.
Oh, yes.
Why did you react that way? Or why did you tell him this? I'm counseling a couple now. It's like, what made you think that that was okay to do? Well, I just figured, I said, you can't figure.
Yeah.
You have to know your spouse well enough that if that's a trigger point for him or her, you can't go testing the waters hoping it comes out a different way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We have a good question.
And you know what? If I could respond to that real quick, we have to be careful, because if we are not communicating with one another, guess who's communicating to us? The enemy is sending us thoughts. So he's sending us stuff. Oh, he's thinking this, or he's doing this. And as long as we keep those thoughts in our mind in the darkness, then they fester, and then they end up being bigger than what they really could have been if you had dealt with it in the beginning. So I'm learning to just ask Doug questions, because I know how my mind is. And sometimes he just had an intense day at work, and I'm thinking, oh man, he's mad. What happened? And then I'll ask him a question, and I'm like, oh, it was that simple. So that's why communication is so important.
And we have to learn how to manage our emotions. And you said something about, well, for me, it's more about the approach. And like I tell my husband, I said, I'm never Andrea with him. I'm never Master Sergeant with him. But because I know how he is, I know how to lay things in his spirit. And if we're not careful and we allow that voice to lie to us, the Bible tells us, let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. If we don't renew our mind on a daily basis, several times throughout the day, because every situation we deal with shifts our mindset. When we're at work, that's the mindset. We're at home, that's the mindset. Dealing with the children, that's the mindset. So you have 10 mindsets that you're contending with in the day. So you have to ask God to renew your mind with each instance, because you can't take the mind from this morning and utilize it for the evening. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so this question comes and says, how do you handle a control-oriented spouse that punishes you in different ways when you step out of line, just in the slightest of ways?
The first thing that I heard was the question, how do I control?
How do you handle a control-oriented spouse?
You don't. You let God handle that.
Yeah.
See, I think oftentimes we are trying to change our spouse. We are trying to mold and shape our spouse. We are trying to create who we want our spouse to be. And again, marriage shines the light on you. It's like a mirror. We're looking at a reflection. A lot of times I'm in prayer, God, I don't do this anymore, but there was times where I was praying, God, deal with Doug. God, I need you to help Doug. And God would show me things that I needed to do. And I'm like, wait a minute, God, I'm telling you, can you fix him? And you telling me that I need to go and, go and apologize, go and show him love, go and appreciate him. And my thing with this is, when we leave this earth, although we become one, when we stand before God, we stand as an individual, and we want to hear God say, well done, thy good and faithful servant. I have to make sure that I am being the best wife that I need to be to Doug. Even when Doug does, I may not think Doug is doing what he's supposed to do, just using that as an example, or vice versa. So I think we don't handle our spouse. We have to pray, and we have to continually work on ourselves. And what ends up happening is our spouse will say, wait a minute, she's not reacting, or he's not reacting the way he normally would. Oh, she's still, the saying, kill him with kindness. Soft answer turneth away wrath. So as long as we're doing what we're supposed to do, God's going to deal with our spouse. God's going to mold and shape our spouse. We
Absolutely.
can do that.
Absolutely. I was telling, and I see you, Doug, just on the tip of your tongue. I was telling the wife of the couple that I'm talking to now, and she was like, well, he this and he. I said, God didn't give you permission to change him. That is not your responsibility. How he acts is none of your business. I said, you are responsible for how you act and how you react. and how you respond. I said, so everything you just told me, you're out of order.
Mhm.
Yes.
I said, because you're expecting him to do what you want to do. I said, God has to handle him.
Yep.
God has to reshape his heart. God has to do this. I said, and so while God is working on him, you need to ask God to show you you. I said, because right now you're a mess,
Mhm.
and you're expecting him. I told her, I said, you're expecting him, you want to fix him and the way he's responding or not responding. I said, but look at how you are being distrustful, not being trustful, and you're suspicious. And I said, when you accuse a man or when you say things to him a certain way, they bruise different than women.
Yes. Yes. And they'll shut down. They
Men
will
don't
go in
recover.
that cave. They will put up a wall. If you
Men
get a
don't
man
recover the
coming
same
up
way.
talking, let him talk and
Yeah.
give him that
Yeah.
safe space, as we like to call it.
And even if we don't like what they say, give them room to say it, and we can deal with the fallout later.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
That comes with maturity. 'Cause
It
if
does.
you're not mature, then you won't allow your spouse that space so they can come to you and say, this is how I feel, or this is how you make me feel, or this is, how I feel about whatever the situation is. And so when you were talking earlier, I was thinking it comes back to communication. If you communicate to your spouse that this is how I feel when you say X, Y, Z. And these are, again, conversations that you probably should have when when everybody's not at 10,
Yes.
when you're like 2, 1 or 2, and
Read down.
write it down and say, I need for you to do X, Y, Z because this is how you make me feel.
Yes.
And if you just communicate and just lay it out, I'm not the wife cop or the husband cop. God didn't put me on this earth to tell you what to do, how to do it, when to do it. That's not my job. My job is to love you regardless what you do to me. That's what God told me to do.
Yes.
Unconditional love to you.
And I want to add to what you were saying about the number 10. Every conversation can't be on 10. You have some people where everything, the volume is to the max. It could be about dinner. It could be about the car. And then when you have something that really, it's really serious. I'm sorry. I felt passionate about that thing. I went there. But when something is really serious, then what ends up happening, let me whisper now, what ends up happening is that they don't take it serious.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because you're always at this level.
Yeah.
And so you got to figure out what is important and not always come intense to a conversation.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to knowing your spouse and how to lay something in their spirit, because if you lay it the wrong way, they're going to receive it the wrong way. Even if that wasn't your intention, you have to know them well enough to know where their tender spots are.
Exactly.
There was something that you said, Douglas, that really struck me, and we're going to move on a little bit. When you said you made me feel a particular way. One thing, as from a counselor's perspective and a coach's perspective, I can't make you feel anything.
That's true.
That is something that you take upon yourself and you own it.
Yeah.
I didn't create that emotion in you. I did not create that angst in you. So when someone says to me, in a counseling session, well, he made me, I said, well, how did he do that? Did he put his arm behind your back and twist you and put a gun to your head and say, cry?
Yeah.
I mean, how did he make you? Well, no, I said, I need you to manage your words. I said, because what you're saying is a lie. He did not make you do anything. You chose that reaction and you hung on to it. I said, so don't say that anybody made you do anything.
Yeah.
Because you own your own self.
Right.
No, that's so true.
Yeah.
But we all hear it in counseling sessions and talking to other couples. You made me do this and she made me do that. Yeah.
You did that of your own volition.
Right.
Because that's what you felt like doing and saying at that time.
Yep.
We have a question here, and then we're going to go on. It says, how do you address rejection in the area of sex or lovemaking?
Somebody's going to go to bed horny. That's pretty much how it is. Somebody's going to go to bed horny.
Cold showers. And conversation.
Communication.
Now,
it depends on why, in all seriousness, it depends on why there was this drop.
Disconnect.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why are we not having sex? And again, it's probably going to come back to communication, because
Mhm.
most men, generally speaking, I ain't gonna say most men, generally speaking, guys, we think lovemaking or intimacy starts in the bedroom, but it starts way before the bedroom.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning.
Way before then. And so we'll go all day. We don't want to speak to our wives. We don't want to talk to our wives. We don't want to have any conversations. We don't want to help around the house. And this, generally speaking, I'm just talking general. You know, our wives work, they're handling the children, they're cooking, doing all this stuff. And then we get in the bedroom, oh, I need you to be superwoman. No, that's not going to happen. You need to take some of the load off of her. And so that she has the strength, the energy, and she wants to. And this comes back to something you said earlier. What's your wife's love language?
Yeah.
If you're not feeding her love language, then it's going to be a long night for you, buddy.
I mean, even though you don't see your spouse 24/7, you're married 24/7. You have to minister and to your spouse. You have to love on your spouse, whether it's a text message, whether it's a phone call, just to say, hi, I'm thinking of you. I love you. Whether it's just if their physical touch, a rub of the shoulder, cooking their favorite meal, or taking her out to dinner, bringing her flowers, you know,
the flowers.
A conversation, just, you know, words of affirmation. Oh, you look good today. You know, whatever it is that's going to woo your spouse, because I don't know if the question came from a male or a female, but either way, you need to start that process before you get in the bedroom.
Absolutely. And one thing, and this is so good, we need about a part 2 and a 3. One thing we'll have to bring it back with us, me and my spouse, and the two of you, we can have a robust discussion. But one thing I've always said when I teach the sex class to married women, and they talk about, I just don't feel like it. I said, stop making lovemaking a chore. Stop thinking about it as a chore, and think of it as a gift, not just for him, but for you as well. It wasn't meant just for us to lay there, you know, spread and ready, you know, give him what he needs. We're not just butter and then get pregnant and start the cycle over again. That's not what it was meant to be, enjoyed by both people. He says the marriage bed is undefiled. That means he likes it, you like it, y'all do it. If you don't like it, talk about it and change up, whatever the case may be.
Exactly.
But my husband and I, because he is a great, let me tell you, I don't want to put too much out there, but let me tell you, foreplay starts at good morning. It does not start when you get in the sheets and it's 10:30 at night and you feel all rusty, dusty, and it's like, you know what, I ain't got time for you right about now. No, foreplay starts at good morning. And like you said, throughout the day, you are loving, and it's, as my husband calls it, it's the buildup. He loves when we go out on a date because it's the buildup. He knows, and even if we don't get to that stage for whatever reason, I don't even know why that would even happen. But you know, I'm just saying. But the point is, you know, there's a buildup there, and it's not just for the man. And women, we can't always think when a man is giving us stuff that, oh, he must want something. Yeah, he wants you. He wants you to participate in union.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And I tell my wives all the time, no is not an option in the bedroom. You don't tell him no, because then he's going to find somebody who will tell him yes, and then you'll be mad. But that's another discussion.
That's another discussion.
Yes. But again, I think it just goes back to having a conversation, you know, saying, honey, I love when you hug me. Honey, I love when you kiss me on my neck. I love when you blow in my ear, or I don't like when you blow in my ear. Or I love when you hold my hand when we're outside walking. Those type of things, and then do them. Respond.
Yeah. Because one thing about me and Apostle, I love holding his hand. When I'm asleep, I'll look for his hand in my sleep.
We do that.
I touch his feet. I have to have contact with him. We are both of our love language, our top love language is physical touch. That does not mean sex. It means physical touch, but physical touch can lead to greater intimacy. But he knows I love holding his hand. It's a sense of security for me. We can be watching TV. I want to hold his hand. We can be talking in the kitchen. I want to hold his hand. And so again, it goes back to understanding what your spouse needs. And there's a book called His Needs, Her Needs. And I recommend it to every couple. It's not just about you.
Yeah.
It's about y'all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can I say that? Can I say it like that?
Yeah.
Oh, y'all.
No.
Oh my God. Let me move on. So let me ask you this.
Yes, ma'am.
The secret to your success and what made you write the book that you all have written. The name of the book is His Story, Her Story, God's Story. Y'all gonna get this here book. You hear? Yes, yes, beautiful. I love that cover.
Yeah, right. I would say there is no secret.
Yeah.
People are looking for a secret to the success of a marriage. That's first and foremost, we're very transparent. And I think that therein lies the problem, that everyone is keeping stuff secret.
Yeah.
We need to share how to communicate with your spouse, how to love on your spouse, how to respect your spouse, how to be there for your spouse, how to listen to your spouse, understand your spouse, all of these things. And, just putting in work and how to work on yourself. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And like Renee said, there's no secret, but unfortunately, we have not been taught marriage, generally speaking, in our community.
Not in our community.
And that's a problem. Yeah. And so all these secrets, even if like my mom and my dad were married for like 30 years, but I don't think my father never had a conversation with me about marriage before he passed. This is what you should do, should not do, so on and so forth. So then I had to learn, on the fly, unfortunately, trial and error, bump my head. And so and we get asked that question all the time. What's the secret? There really is no secret, because if we told you there was one thing, you would just do that one thing. But each marriage is different because we're all different. So we have to find the combination to our marriage and make it work. Whatever works for us may not work for someone else, but you just have to find the combination for your particular marriage. And once you find that combination, you find that rhythm and you find that flow, the rhythm, then you just flow with it and don't let anybody interrupt it. And
with that, you can even say, just like your book cover, it has seasons. Mm-hmm. So what worked for you and Renee's marriage at 10 years may not be the spice for 20 years.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because I think people they get stuck in the fantasy of on our wedding day. Oh. And you're 5 years in, 10 years in, and you're still looking for butterflies and birds. And I'm like, they've long gone. You've got to now deal with the cement and the rebar, And I think people get caught up in what TV shows, even the Cosby Show, even though it personified, the African-American middle-class family, that's not typically us.
Yeah.
And so, like you said, we've not seen good examples. We've not seen strong, enriching marriages in the African-American community. And so we do learn from TV. We do get stuck in these fantasies. We do learn on the fly and bump our head and scrape our knee along the way. But I think we need to continue having these discussions, because if not, the Black family, as the construct of what it's supposed to be, father, mother, children, is so broken, and it will not be repaired or restored until we continue having these conversations about what marriage is and what it is not, and what to expect and what not to expect. All these silent expectations, and you mad at somebody you never told. But anyway, that's another conversation. Yeah. But I just think it's important that people like yourself, that you share your story, and being transparent with your spouse is key. Stop telling everybody your business.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So there's a limit to the transparency, right? There's a cap.
Yeah.
You want to share information, but there are certain things that are between you and your spouse.
Absolutely.
And God.
Yeah.
Save some for Jesus is my favorite thing. I say that all the time, but I don't, my husband and I know our time is wasting. I'm telling him not to do this again. My husband and I, about once a week, we have a jar with all of these questions in it. And so for about an hour and a half, we just pick questions and ask questions to each other. We answer the same question to each other, but I may pick 5, he may pick 5. And we just have a moment of just pure honesty about whatever the question says.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are silly questions like, what is your favorite position? Or some of them are deep questions about how do you deal with me when I'm XYZ? And we really have to dig deep and go deeper, because that's how you get to know each other. You have to peel back the layers and find out who you are. I mean, even though I've known Apostle since the 90s, we were married before and now we're remarried. We have to relearn each other because I'm in a different stage in my life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's in a different stage in his life. And I think in our community, we get stuck on, when we were, we've been high school sweethearts. Yeah, but you're 70. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
right. Because Doug and I have been married 34 years, but we're certainly not the same people that we were back then.
Yeah. So we're
Absolutely.
evolving, learning, growing. Yeah.
Yes.
And it comes back to communication.
Yes.
And you said something real interesting, Michele, about the wedding and 5 years later. It's unfortunate that more people spend more on their wedding than they do on the marriage. They invest more into that wedding day.
More time, more energy, more
money.
money.
Yep, into the wedding day than they do their marriage. And then they
And
wonder 5 years later why they're going through what they're going through.
And they're in debt, and the marriage didn't last longer than the credit card. Come on now.
Say that.
I mean, I've seen it. People who dropped $20,000 into a wedding and didn't last 2 years. Why? Because you're trying to impress people and say you had the best wedding ever. Okay, so what do you want to do?
That same investment in marriage. They stop investing after the wedding.
Yeah, you need to go to retreats. You need to go to conferences. You need to have conversations with Doug and Renee. That investment goes beyond just getting the flowers and buying the rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I share this all the time. When my husband, we were talking about getting remarried and all that. I said, please don't buy me a diamond. He said, I said, no, I don't want a diamond. I said, I want a green amethyst cushion stone, cut stone. It took him forever, but he found it because green is the color of grace. And it's one of my favorite colors. This color green, not,
Yeah.
But the point is, I didn't want him to drop some exorbitant amount of money into something I don't like. I don't appreciate diamonds. Now, there are small diamonds all around and all this, but a central stone for me doesn't prove that you love me because you went and got a Neil diamond, or not Neil diamond,
you went to Jared's.
Yeah, because you went to Jared, absolutely.
Okay.
or wherever you spent it, every kid's, and now you're not kissing anymore, but you're still paying for that ring. Anyway, I digress. But the point is, we've got to be more in tune to what the covenant and the institution means, rather than trying to impress people with the gown and with the cake and with, how many people came to the reception and how many gift cards you got and the honeymoon. That's only momentary. Exactly. You got to live with that booger and look at them when their teeth ain't straight, when their breath ain't right, when they forgot the deodorant, when they ate beans and shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so marriage is ministry, and it's anyway.
Ministry isn't always pretty.
It's
and
not.
Ministry isn't for everybody. The ministry of marriage is not for everybody.
It's not for everybody. Thank you.
Douglas,
that's good. Hit on that for just a minute, because we got like 5 minutes.
If you've ever been in a church service and you've heard someone try to sing and they really can't sing, or try to preach and they weren't called to preach, you just know it.
It's a mess.
Exactly. It's a mess because it's a ministry. You have to be called to do it. And marriage is the same way. It's a ministry. You have to be anointed. I am anointed to be your husband.
And I'm anointed to be your wife.
But
what people don't realize when they say, I want to be anointed, there is a cost that comes with the anointing.
That's another.
So you got to be careful to say, I want to be in the ministry of a wife or the ministry of the husband, because people see us here today. And shameless plug for his story, her story, God's glory. If you read the book, you'll say, y'all went through that. Y'all went through that. My question is, do you want to go through to get to a certain point? Anointing a ministry is costly.
Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
hard work.
There's a cost to your yes. That's a sermon I've been working on. There's a cost to your yes. And when you say I do, like you said, people don't see the muck and the mire. They only see how y'all come out and you look all pretty, your hair is all done, your makeup is done, your beard is trimmed. They see that. And so when you covet, when you say, oh, I want a marriage just like yours, you're treading on being covetous.
Yeah.
But you also don't understand that when you look at somebody's something, whatever that is, marriage, job, career, entrepreneurship, whatever, when you look at it, you don't know the backstory and you don't know the nights they've cried. You don't know the bloodshed. You don't know the ridicule. You don't know the moments you wanted to walk out and never come back. And so stop being so quick to say, oh, I want a marriage just like yours. I love Doug and Renee. I just met y'all. I love y'all, but I don't want your story. I want me and Sean's story.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Because I don't know if I can handle whatever you all went through. I need to go get the book. I don't know if I can handle what you all went through. So I don't want to say I want a marriage just like yours. Yes, I want longevity. Yes, I want it to be, a ministry and a testimony to God's goodness, glory, and God knows his favor.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say I want one just like yours because I don't know what you endured to make it like this.
Yes.
And what you said is something my wife says all the time on the podcast that we host. She said, you don't want what we have. You want who we have, which is Jesus, but you don't want what we have.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I just leave it at that.
That's some good stuff right there. Oh my God. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been speaking with the one, the only Douglas and Renee Dantzler. We have been talking about marriage, particularly how it is in the African-American community. And it has been such a blessing. I want you all to follow them on their website at https DougandRenee.com. Go to DougandRenee.com. You can follow them on Instagram at Doug_and_Renee. Listen to their podcast, Doug and Renee, Married Life. Y'all talking about you want to stay married. You got to talk to people who have stayed married. You can't talk to people who've been married 2 minutes and you want advice from somebody who's still got phone from the back of the ring box on their hand. No, you want to talk to somebody who's been in the trenches. Amen.
Amen.
And so you want to go get their book called His Story, Her Story, God's Glory. You can certainly get it on their website once again, which is DougandRenee.com. This has been a blessing. I'm going to have to bring you all back. We're going to have to do something else. And for those of you who didn't catch the whole show, you can watch the whole segment on my YouTube channel, Life Matters with Michele TV Official. That's Life Matters with Michele TV Official. Don't forget to like, share, and of course, subscribe so you know when we post the show. But you can also listen to it every Friday at 4 o'clock on sensationalsoundsradio.net. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, please reach out to me on my website at www.im-mij.com. I am looking for guests for November and December. We'll be in season 3 starting in July, but I'm filling up fast. So if you want to get on, you got to get on. You have to contact me, and we will do what we do and get you on the show. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have been talking to the one, the only Douglas and Renee Dantzler talking about marriage. It has been such a blessing. I love you guys. I want you to hang on there when we end the show so we can do a little after show conversation. But thank you once again to everyone who has joined us today on Life Matters. Why? Because life matters is when we talk about what matters to you and in your life. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and have a blessed day. See you next time.